Hello, my name is Natasha Thomas. I am the first grade teacher at Beaver Creek Elementary, and I have been blessed enough to be awarded an innovation grant this year for Rocket Books for my first graders, which is super exciting. So I am going to go ahead and get started with my plans for incorporating this into my first grade classroom setting. The title of my grant is Beaver Achievers Digital Writers in the First Grade, which is something I never thought that I would say as a first grade teacher. Digital writers. But here we are. So, the biggest problem that I found with this time period is I kept asking myself, how can I incorporate handwriting? Handwriting is such a big part of first grade. So my biggest thing was how could I implement digital notebooks inside our 21st century first grade classroom to enhance fine motor skills, but to also convey their understanding and to, of course, provide student success across the first grade curriculum, but primarily in the area of composition, which is something that I find every year becomes more of a struggle to students. Of course, I want to provide ease to not only my students, but to the guardians and parents during this pandemic. And it's a time where parents are really having to step up into that educator role, which is not a role that they were, of course, prepared for. So therefore, these digital notebooks, this digital platform, how would it help parents to incorporate all the needs across the handwriting setting, not just handwriting, but print in general? So, of course, there's a million questions that I asked myself while planning for this project. How will I cover the content? That was the biggest thing. How will I cover all of the first grade content in a digital setting? And now we've switched to hybrid, which I'm sure many of you have. So it's a really struggle between I have 21st graders that are coming in from missing out on a kindergarten education from March all the way to September. So not only am I worried about covering the content, but being successful, of course, with the content with such a gap of understanding. Because we always have those learners that are either below or above or right at those grade levels. And it seems like in my situation, I have a lot of students who are below grade level. And how do I meet that gap? How do I close the gap? Is what I, of course, am getting at. So then, of course, I want to differentiate because no two learners are going to comprehend the same way. No two learners are going to grasp it the same way. So, how will I reach all my learners in a differentiated manner? How will I aid those students who need that tactile, that touch to understand a new concept? And of course, I have a lot of visual learners who not only need to touch it, but they need to actually draw it out, do it themselves. I'm personally like that. If I don't write it down, then 9 times out of 10, I don't remember it. So, how am I going to reach those students? And then, how am I going to enhance handwriting? Because again, we have students that are coming in from a August to mid late February education from kindergarten, and they've been out all this time. How am I going to enhance their skills in handwriting? Because now that's a standard in first grade, just as it is in kindergarten and second and third. We have to teach those children how to legibly print their letters. And not that we've never done that before, but now it's actually something that we're held accountable for because it's a standard we teach. As many of you know, because we are preparing them for that cursive handwriting. So that's just a biggie to me. And with this virtual setting, it was so hard to not do paper packets because I want those students to still have those fine motor skills, to still have that experience of printing their letters, their numbers. So, of course, that leads me to the standard of our handwriting. By the end of the year, all of my students are expected to legibly print their upper and lowercase letters and all their numerals with the correct form. With a digital notebook, they would have the access to do that without passing the papers back and forth. And it would all be in one place. So, a lot of pros to this. It's going to replace paper. It's going to replace the 3 or 4 different notebooks because we have the 2 and 3 notebooks for reading. We have the math notebook. We have the social studies notebook, the science notebook. All that replaced with one thing that is now able to be transferred onto Google Drive, into Google Classroom. So it's definitely Google friendly. It's reusable. They write, they upload it to their drive, and then boom, they erase and they use it again. And of course, if it's that easy to erase with a wipe and water, then of course I'm going to be able to easily disinfect it once those are brought back. And then, of course, increasing those fine motor skills and allowing me to differentiate. So, of course, my goals are to improve handwriting. That's the big one. I have a room full of students who are still having trouble forming letters because, again, that gap is there. And we know that home life, socioeconomic status, that all plays a factor into our students' success. And we've got that huge gap of time that we've not had them in school in person. Of course, it's going to allow me to make notes, to edit, and to return their graded work in a more personable manner without, typing out a comment or a voice, and I love all that. I love being able to record my voice to a student so that they can hear me. However, now with these Rocket books, I will be able to actually go in and, just as I would in class, go over and model how to correct the form, how to correct their sentence. Sentence structure is a big thing in first grade. It's more meaningful. These students now own their work. They are actually writing it, they are illustrating it, designing it, creating it. It's their work. So it's definitely providing them that ownership. And this is going to give that individualization for each student. It's really going to allow them to, I know as a mother, my daughter gets so excited every year about her notebooks, having a notebook for every class. So this is going to allow them to have their own notebook, but it's going to be so much easier for all parties involved because it's a one place for all, one-stop shop again, and it's reusable. And of course, not only is it going to strengthen their handwriting, but it's also going to improve keyboarding skills, which I'm finding is a big thing that we need to work on in our school because students can work a tablet or an iPhone or some kind of, phone or device that they can touch with their fingers and thumbs, but actually putting their fingers on a keyboard. And these Rocket books are going to allow them to take their handwriting on the notebook and actually be able to type it if needed. So that's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out, especially in the first grade setting. And I think that would be a cool way for me to maybe train once I am proficient with it. Other educators, especially like I keep thinking of like the second, third, especially third grade level, for them to be able to get in those typing skills. That, of course, is in our content. Okay, the materials that I have asked for are the Rocket Book Core, which is the lined notebooks. So these students are actually going to feel like they have a notebook in front of them. And it is a notebook. I mean, they're going to feel it, they're going to touch it, they're going to open it, they're going to write in it. But this is so cool because it's reusable and they can transfer it to the digital platform. Of course, I'm going to need the pens to write on it with. I have asked for beacons and think boards because as I was researching the Rocketbooks and how they would enhance the digital platform with my first grade classroom, I found that these think boards, you can reuse them just like you do the whiteboards and, in our classrooms. However, you stick these beacons on and automatically they become a smart board. And goodness knows I need another smart board in my classroom because mine will not, no matter what the IT department does with it, I cannot write on it. So we can't click it, we can't touch it. So how cool is this going to be to have this type of board inside my classroom that can be reused just like the Rocketbooks? So I'm very excited for that aspect of this project. So not only are my students getting their own personal digital, but really handwriting, handwritten print platform, but I'm also getting one that we can back and forth communicate. Which leads me to another point. It's going to be so much more personable than just a video chat talking or holding things up or presenting it on a computer, because now we're actually taking our handwritten notes, our handwritten sentences, our paragraphs, and we are able to communicate that back and forth. So how to collect data with a project like this? Of course, weekly summative assessments are going to be used. And the big question is, are students meeting their success criteria? Are they succeeding with the criteria in which we're using these Rocketbooks? Of course, the big one's going to be ELA. Math is going to be the next one. Social studies, I see this in so many different ways. Just the other day, I was talking to another educator and I said it would have been so nice if my Rocketbooks were here already, because they could have actually taken their Rocketbook and done this just like they would on paper in class. And it's just so hard to find a digital platform where students are getting that opportunity to write. Okay, and then of course our student data tracking notebooks, our data walls, comparing the map scores, and then observations is going to play a big role in this. When an administrator walks into my classroom, are we hitting all those points? Are my students getting that opportunity to drive, to lead the instruction? And I just see a million possibilities with these notebooks being able to be reused over and over, and been able to be transferred back and forth from digital to print. And then, of course, I'm going to ask, are students increasing their scores in ELA? That's the big one. Is math improving? And am I getting positive feedback from administrators from using these notebooks? The projected budget detail, of course, is $1,000. We are going to order 20 of these Rocketbooks, beacons, which are the little orange things that go in the corners. That's going to help me go from a whiteboard to a smart board. I'm so excited. And then think boards for me to have different access points in my room. And then the Frickson pens for the students to write with. Another big thing I want to point out too is I'm really hoping that once other educators in my building see a child of the age 6 and 7 using a digital notebook and having success with it, that hopefully they will want to engage in a similar or the same platform with their students, because I could see this in so many different ways of being implemented, not just in first grade, but across the board. And if there's anyone that has used the Rocketbooks, I would love to hear from you, because just reading and researching on these, I just see so many different possibilities. Unfortunately, like I have mentioned, I have not had the opportunity to receive these yet. As we all know, it's been very uncertain and unexpected times. So we are hoping to get those within the next 2 weeks or so. And from there, they'll go into immediate effect. And I can't wait to come back and share with you guys everything that's happening and how we're using them and the success I'm seeing with them. Um, and even the changes that I've made. You know, I have this huge plan that we're going to use these for every subject, and we're going to implement them just like I would their journals and their class notebooks and their interactive notebooks. Um, so I can't wait to see how that changes and improvements that need to be made. So thank you for taking the time to invest in our first grade classroom and all the possibilities that we have with our digital notebooks that we are receiving. And thank you again to KVEC and all of the funders who put the time and funding into our little classroom here at Beaver Creek Elementary. We can't wait to try these out and share all of our success with you guys in the spring. Thank you and God bless.